Hey guys, it's Nathan with BeyondTheGuitar.com, and I'm super excited to be sharing my first guitar tutorial with you today. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to play the Force theme, also known as Binary Sunset, from my Star Wars guitar medley. If you haven't had a chance to check that out yet, I've included the link below. The Force theme starts at about 1 minute 17 seconds. And I am including a table of contents again in the description below to help you navigate the video as you are learning. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive in. Alright, so we're going to start out with the open second string, followed up by the open first string. Alright, then we're going to have an E minor shape here. Our first finger is going to play the second fret of the fifth string, second finger is going to play the second fret of the fourth string, right? And then we're going to arpeggiate through. So we have, right? So I went up through the sixth, fifth, and fourth strings. At that point, we're going to play the third string open simultaneously with the second fret of the first string, and that's going to be with our third finger. Then we're going to go back to the fourth string, back to the third string open, then we're going to shift over and I'm going to play my second finger on the third fret of the first string simultaneously with the open second string, and then fifth fret of the first string with my fourth finger. And then I'm going to shift back to the third fret, except this time it's going to be with my third finger, right? Okay, now at this point, I'm going to grab with my second finger the second fret of the fourth string, and then the open third string, and then back to the fourth string, okay? First finger, second fret of the fifth string, simultaneously with the open second string. And then we're going to reach with our third finger over to the fourth fret of the fourth string, and then fifth fret, and then fourth fret again with the open second string simultaneously. Alright, so as we get to the end of each section throughout this video, I'm going to play that entire section again for you, just super slow, so you can just kind of hear everything that we just covered in context. Alright, so here we go. Alright, now we're going back to that E minor shape, okay? But we're going to play the sixth string and the first string at the same time, and then arpeggiate up, and then we're back to our third finger on the second fret of the first string, and we're playing that simultaneously with the open third string. Back to the fourth string, and then our fourth finger is going to grab the third fret of the first string. We're playing that together, followed by the open second string in the melody. Okay, next we have an interesting rhythm. We have kind of a 3 against 2, right? We're going to have 3 melody notes taking up the same space as 2 accompaniment notes, right? So it's a triplet rhythm against just a normal 8th note duple rhythm. So it'll be simpler just to kind of repeat after me basically here. Alright, so the melody is coming from our fourth finger on the third fret of the first string, We're playing that simultaneously with the open third string. Then we're going open first string, and then in between that and the next note we have the open second string. So, okay, and then finally we're going to shift up with our fourth finger to the 7th fret of the first string. Alright, so just make sure you pay close attention to that rhythm either in the original video or as you're practicing along when I go through this slowly again at the end of this section. Really making sure that you're making that rhythm clear and clean. Alright, right after that we're going to follow it up with a A major chord. So that's going to be a little mini bar here at the 5th fret on the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings. And then our second finger is going to go on the 6th fret on that 3rd string. And then we're going to play open 5th string. Okay? After that, so we've got here, the 3rd finger is going to go to the 7th fret of the 4th string. And then we're going to come back to form a variation on a B chord. So it's going to be open first string, and then our first finger is going to play the 2nd fret of the 5th string. And then here's where the B chord comes in. Our second finger is going to reach over to play the 4th fret of the 4th string. 3rd finger is tucked underneath there on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. And then finally, 4th fret of the 2nd string with our 4th finger there. Play those 3 strings, the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd simultaneously. And then follow it up finally with our 3rd string individually again. So, alright, now that's actually our melody, that inner note. So just make sure you're listening for that and bringing that out so that you'll be able to hear that within the context. So really dig into that 3rd string a little bit more. Alright, so let's go ahead and hear that section all together. Alright, with this next section we're really going to build up the intensity to our climax here. So we're going to start out with our open 6th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings all together. Follow that up with our first finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, and then our second finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. Then we're going to add our 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string, and we're going to play that along with the open 2nd, 3rd, and then our 4th string still here. So, alright, so that's the open 1st string after that. Right, so here we've shifted up to the 7th fret of the 1st string with our 1st finger, and then the 8th fret of the 2nd string, and I'm actually going to play that with my 3rd finger. Alright, when I play my 7th fret here, that's simultaneous with the open 4th string. Now the reason I'm using my 3rd finger there is because I want to prepare for what's coming next. I'm going to shift over, create a bar on the 8th fret, and my 2nd finger kind of slides in here to the 9th fret of the 3rd string, right? So when I use my 3rd finger here, that keeps that 2nd finger free. So I just shift over nicely there, and we do have a little bit of a stretch. Our 4th finger is going to reach over and grab the 12th fret of the 1st string here, and we're going to play the 6th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings. Alright, so as you're making that stretch, just a couple things. I'll be talking about this a lot more as we have various lessons here on YouTube and on the site as well. With our bar, you always want to make sure you're relying on the weight of your arm rather than squeezing and pinching between your fingers and thumb. One of the reasons behind this is you just have a lot more capacity for strength in your arm, as well as just the weight of your arm to really flatten out that bar and get a good sound, right? It's going to require less tension. That becomes especially important when we're getting this big of a stretch, because any amount of tension that we have is actually going to constrict our muscles and cause those stretches to be more difficult. So the more relaxation, the more free you are to reach that stretch. All right, so when we get to that big bar chord finale kind of here, I like to roll the chord, right? For one reason, it helps smooth the transition from where we were coming from, right? And the other reason is it just really emphasizes that peak, that musical peak that we've arrived. Okay, then after that, I like to bring the volume down, and we're going to play the open first string, then our second finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string, pull off to the 2nd fret of the 1st string, and that's going to be with my 1st finger. So 2nd finger pulling off to the 1st finger. Again, make sure you pull through there rather than up, right? That's going to give us no sound on that pull off. So pull through to really make that pull off pop, and then finish it with the open 1st string. So Alright, so now we're going to make a bar on the 7th fret, and we're going to start that with the 1st string. Okay, so it's going to be 1st string, then 5th string, and then we're arpeggiating up. Now my 3rd finger is going to grab the 9th fret of the 4th string, and my 4th finger is going to grab the 9th fret of the 3rd string. Okay, and then finally my 2nd finger is here on the 8th fret of the 2nd string. Once I play that 2nd finger there, I'm going to get rid of the bar, play the open 1st string, and start transitioning down to where our next notes are going to be in this position. Right, so that's followed up with the open 2nd string, open 1st, open 2nd, and then we have our 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string, and then our 4th finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. Now when I play that 3rd string there, I'm actually going to simultaneously play the 2nd string open. So those are both B's. Now I just think it kind of fills out the arrangement a little bit, because the 1B here kind of just functions as accompaniment and it just rings out, whereas the open string is a little brighter and it's going to come out as the melody. So together, and then followed up with one more melody on that open 2nd string. Okay? Now here we get to this transitional section that begins the key change, and is another bit of a build here into a more dramatic section of the theme. So starting here where we left off, my second finger is going to grab the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and I'm going to play that along with the open 1st and 6th strings. 3rd finger goes on the 5th fret of the 4th string, and then I'm going to play with my 4th finger the 5th fret of the 2nd string. So far we have. Okay, make sure you pay attention to my right hand here to see how I've fingered it. So I come up with the thumb, middle finger, thumb, and then here, middle again, middle finger, and that's the 1st finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. And then I come back to the 5th fret here with my 4th finger. So we have. Okay, then I'm going to shift up to grab a couple harmonics here. So we need a harmonic at the 12th fret of the 2nd string and then the 3rd string. Okay, I like to make just the bar with my 4th finger so I don't have to worry about hopping my finger back and forth. That works just fine. And then it frees me up to shift back here for my next note. So our next note here is going to be the 2nd fret of the 1st string. Now what I use here is what we call a hinge bar. If you're not familiar with that, it's where you're straightening out your finger as if you're making a bar, but it's kind of at an angle like this, kind of like a door hinge, right? And we're actually making contact with the string at the base of my finger here, right? So this is going to enable me to wrap my finger around for the next note. So I'll show you that in a second, but I'm going to play that 2nd fret here, right? So we've got the harmonics, and then we've got the 2nd fret of the 1st string with my hinge bar. I'm going to wrap that around to grab with my 1st finger again the 2nd fret of the 6th string. So by fingering it like this, it allows me to smooth out that transition without cutting off that note and still freeing me up to get the open 1st string right after. So after the hinge, my 1st finger is on the 2nd fret of the 6th string, my 3rd finger is on the 4th fret of the 5th string, 4th finger is on the 4th fret of the 4th string, and then I'm going to play the open 1st string at the same time. Okay, so from the harmonics. Alright, then I'm going to follow that up with the 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And then I'm going to pull my 1st finger down into a full bar, and I'm going to play the 2nd string and then my 4th string at the same time. Right, so you really want to make sure you build to that section, to the end of that section right there, before we transition into that key change where it repeats that same melody that we've already heard. Alright, so all together. Alright, so now you really want to play with some intensity in this next part. We're hearing that same melody again in a different key. There's not as much movement in the notes. There's a little less activity here, so you can really build on that tension with some extra dynamics, right? Playing a little louder. So here we go. We've got our 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string simultaneously with the open 2nd string. third finger, 4th fret of the 4th string, and then I'm going to pull that down into a bar, and I'm going to play the 2nd string simultaneously with my 3rd string at the 4th fret with my 4th finger. So, then I'm going back to the 4th string, and then I'm going to play with my 2nd finger at the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and then open 1st string. Okay, so I have to pull out of the bar at that point. Okay, so you notice I pull out of the bar at that point to get the open 1st string, and then I come back with my 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, played simultaneously with the 4th finger at the 4th fret of the 3rd string. Right, so I was here, and then I come back down to the 4th string, and then back to the 5th string. Right, then I just shift this shape that I have right here, jump it up a set of strings. Right, so now same shape, but I'm just playing it on the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings. Play them simultaneously, followed up with the 4th string again. Okay, all together slowly. Alright, we're starting this section off the same way we started the last. 1st finger of the 2nd fret of the 5th string, played together with the open 2nd string, followed up with the 3rd finger at the 4th fret of the 4th string. Now I come back into the bar again, and I'm going to play the 2nd string. Now I'm adding my 2nd finger at the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and my 4th finger at the 4th fret of the 3rd string. I'm going to play those together. Then I'm going to play the open 2nd string. So you hear all that. Okay, then I'm going to shift back here. Now my 1st finger is at the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and my 2nd finger is at the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. I'm going to play those together, followed by open 2nd string, and then my 2nd finger is then going to play the 2nd fret of the 1st string. And then that resolves here, open 6th, 1st finger at the 1st fret of the 3rd string, open 2nd, open 1st. Okay, now I have a cool little fill that I included in the arrangement. It's going to take us up the neck a little bit. So after this, 2nd finger is going to play the 2nd fret of the 4th string. Our 4th finger is going to play the 4th fret of the 3rd string. Now when we come up here, I use my 4th finger sort of as a guide finger that slides in to this harmony up here. Right, so I let it slide up a little bit as I transition into this harmony. So what this is our 1st finger on the 7th fret of the 1st string, and then our 3rd finger at the 9th fret of the 2nd string. Okay, so we've got, then we come back to the 1st fret, or to the 2nd fret of the 1st string with our 1st finger, played at the same time as our open 4th string. So, again, let those kind of slide gently back into that note as well to connect to them. Okay, and then we have our third finger at the third fret of the second string, and my fourth finger at the fourth fret of the fourth string, right? And then finally, our second finger at the third fret of the third string, and my first finger at the second fret of the second string. Alright, so let's hear that all together. Alright, we're coming to the end, so we're going to finish strong with another big build here. Alright, we're starting off this section with our first finger on the second fret of the fifth string, third finger on the fourth fret of the fourth string, and then fourth finger on the fourth fret of the third string. Alright, we're playing those all together along with the open second string. Okay, now we do have two B's there. Again, I like doubling up notes sometimes to just fill out the chord. Immediately after this, we have this quick little fanfare figure. So you want to make sure that you pay close attention to the right hand for this figure. We're alternating between the fourth and the third strings, and it's thumb, middle, thumb, index. Right, so you really want to practice that to get your speed up and to make sure that that comes out real quick and real clean. Okay? So after that, pull our first finger down into a bar at the second fret so we can play the second string. Then we're going to add our second finger at the third fret of the second string, and we're going to play all those together. And then open second string. We're going to pull our first finger to the second fret of the first string, and then our third finger is going to the fourth fret of the fourth string, and we're going to play those all together with the open fifth string. And that's going to be followed by our second finger on the third fret of the second string. So we have alright, and then here's our peak. So we have another decent sized stretch here. So it's going to be our first finger on the third fret of the sixth string, open third, open second, fourth finger at the seventh fret of the first string. And I like to roll this again to help emphasize that climax. Right, so to make this stretch happen, again, like I was saying earlier, you've got to stay relaxed so that we can make that horizontal reach. Okay, bring the elbow in as well to help make that stretch happen. If we come out here, it just puts unnecessary strain, it's awkward. We bring the elbow in, it makes that stretch a little more natural. Okay, after this, our volume is going to come way down. We're going to play our second finger on the fourth fret of the fourth string alongside the open second string. Okay, we're playing those together. And then we're going to pull back. Our first finger goes to the second fret of the fourth string, and our third finger is going to play the third fret of the second string simultaneously. Pull off to our second finger at the second fret of the second string, and then open second string. Now the important thing to remember is that when we get this figure, you want to make sure that your second finger is already down so that pull off will really come out. Right? If we don't get it down until after we play that, we're not going to have enough weight here, so our string is going to be a little wobbly and it's not going to snap as we pull off. So we really want that snap to hear that note really come out. Alright, Then we're nearing the end here. I'm going to come up to the 7th fret of the 2nd string with my 3rd finger. Play that simultaneously with the open 4th string. Again, I could play that over here, the 2nd fret of the 1st string, but I like the sound better here. It's a little darker. I can get some vibrato in there a little more easily. So I like to come up here and then bring it back down to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and then open 2nd string, and then our final chords on the 4th fret of the 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings. And then it's going to be our 1st finger on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, and then playing the 4th string along with it. So for both of these harmonies here, it's another spot where our melody is in the middle of those chords, right? It's on the 4th string, so you want to make sure that you dig into that string a little bit more so that comes out. And then at this point in the medley, I normally transition over to the Imperial March theme, or the Darth Vader's theme. But for our purposes, if we're playing this as a standalone theme, we're going to resolve this and end right here. So we're going to leave our 3rd finger down as we transition. Leave the 3rd finger, drop the 4th finger down on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and then our 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. Alright, and that's going to finish us off. So let me go ahead and play through that all slowly for you, and we'll be done. And there it is. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to subscribe. I'm going to be bringing tons more great content your way. I'd also love to have you as part of my community at beyondtheguitar.com. I'm including a link down below where you can subscribe to my newsletter. Now everybody on my newsletter gets my best content first. And it's also a great way for us to communicate. So, for example, if you have any questions about today's video, you can get on my newsletter, shoot me an email with your questions, and I will most definitely get back to you with answers. Alright, I hope that I will be hearing some of you guys playing this very soon. That's it for today. Thank you so much again for checking this out. Take care.